Years after the Life Esidimeni tragedy, there are families and patients who are yet to be compensated. While answering questions posed in the Gauteng Legislature last week, the provincial government detailed how there have been delays in the verifications of claimants who weren't part of the arbitration that was chaired by retired Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke. Now, apart from the over 140 patients that lost their lives after being moved from Life Esidimeni to other facilities, hundreds of victims suffered from starvation and neglect under the care of those inadequate organizations. To discuss this, we're joined by Ulrich Roux, who's a lawyer for the ex-Life Esidimeni families and patients. Ulrich, always good having you. Thanks very much for being with us.
Hi, good day, Leanne. Thank you for having me.
You're representing a group of families whose relatives who were affected by the tragedy didn't pass away, but as yet have not been compensated. Tell us about this group of families and how you actually came about getting involved.
Yes, so we act on behalf of 113 of the families who were affected by the Life Esidimeni tragedy. And I was approached by a group of the families who had, despite numerous attempts, not had any success in having their payments paid out to the family members in accordance with the award handed down by Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke in March 2018. We have sent letters of demand to the office of the Premier of Gauteng. We've also met with them in a number of roundtable meetings, and we are now proceeding to launch an application in the High Court, whereby we are seeking that the Master of the High Court appoints our firm as the administrators of these funds, so that we can duly pay or make payment to these family members in accordance with the award handed down more than 2 years ago.
So, Ulrich, let me understand this. The families that you're representing now, were they a part of the very first arbitration process? So they were not part of this, or explain that to us.
No, so they were not part of the arbitration process and the actual proceedings. But in the award handed down by Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke, he makes it clear that any families who were not part of the arbitration proceedings and who quite frankly were not aware that the proceedings were being conducted would be in a position to approach the office of the Premier of Gauteng in order for them to prove their claim and for their claim then to be duly paid out to the families.
Yeah.
So all of our clients, all 113 family members, have successfully proven their claims and have been recognized by the Office of the Premier of Gauteng as worthy recipients of these claims. And now it is purely a matter of having the funds paid out to the family members. The Office of the Premier of Gauteng has made it clear that they wish to be appointed as the administrators of the funds, or alternatively have the State Protector Fund appointed, after which the families will then be in a position to apply, and once those applications are made successfully, then to receive funds as and when the funds are required. Our clients are not satisfied with this proposal by the Premier, and we are relying on the order, which makes it 100% clear that these payments will be made within 3 months of the claims being proven and after the arbitration award is handed down. And quite frankly, our clients do not have faith in the office of the Premier that they will administer these funds properly and in a lawful manner. Accordingly, we are making an application in the High Court to be appointed as the administrators, and hopefully, if we are successful, then to have these funds paid out to our clients as they are rightfully entitled to in terms of the arbitration award handed down.
Okay, so these are your demands that have been put on the table. You've sent it to them. So let's get an understanding of how far the provincial government is. I mean, you're saying 3 months from the verification. How far is the provincial government from this verification process?
Well, they've recognised our clients as worthy recipients of these awards in accordance with the award handed down by Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke. So it is not a question of verifying the claims, it is a question of the dispute pertaining to the payment of the claims. The Office of the Premier is insisting that they retain ownership and management of these funds, whereas our clients are saying no. That is definitely not what the award referred to, and they have no faith in the Office of the Premier that they will receive all their money and that they will, be able to adequately care for their family members who are still in mental health care organisations and who still require extensive treatment, for the rest of their lives.
I mean, if we talk to some of the frustrations that the individuals and families have been going through to try and get this compensation, what have they been going through for these years now?
Yes, I think, we'll all remember the actual proceedings where Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke, one of the greatest legal minds of the modern era in our country, actually broke down in tears hearing the testimony of how, in what barbaric and inhumane ways these patients were being treated. They found patients who were eating cardboard, who had not eaten proper food in more than a week, who had been given the wrong medication and just absolutely inhumane conditions, and which led to the death of more than 100 people. That in itself is an absolute injustice that was done to these families. And, since then they have been relocated to different facilities. But, they must be compensated in terms of the order that was handed down. A lot of these families are struggling to look after their family members and are struggling to obtain adequate medical care for them. And these awards, which have been awarded to the family members, will certainly go a long way to improving their quality of life and to improving their circumstances which they find themselves.
And this is just as you say, at one of the worst pages in our history. It certainly is a very, very difficult one. Looks like we've lost the connection to Ulrich. We'll try and redial him and get him back on the line. Looks like he is back there. All right, Ulrich, we just lost you for a second there. I just want to talk about the process of the actual compensation. Now, we know that the idea is that 50% of the money is actually going to be put in a trust fund for the patients. But what it is that the family are saying is that they will approach the courts, as what we are hearing from you, that they want their lawyers, which is you, to actually administer this trust. Talk to us about this trust now.
Well, it's clear and simple. The arbitration award does not refer to any payment terms or conditions such as the Premier's office is now insisting upon. And more than that, the initial claims which were paid out were all done in accordance with this award. So there was no 50% being paid into a trust and 50% being retained or any of these conditions. It was purely a matter of the entire amount, which is an amount of 1.18 million rand per family who was affected by this tragedy, is paid out to the families, and that is the end of it. The arbitration award makes it clear that further claimants who approach the Office of the Premier and who prove their claim must be treated in the same manner as the parties who were actually present during the arbitration proceedings. And that is what our clients are insisting upon, that they want to be the administrators of their own funds so that they can themselves determine what is in the best interest of their family members, how they will adequately look after their family members, how they will obtain proper medical care and treatment for their family members, and they don't want to leave it in the hands of the government. I think, there's very little faith left in the government's ability to properly administer funds. And our clients are troubled and concerned that if the government was to administer these funds, that they would end up not receiving their funds in accordance with the arbitration award. And all they seek is fairness and justice. And, that is that the arbitration award must be adhered to in its entirety without any conditions pertaining to payments or funds being retained by the government on trust. They are entitled to these funds to look after their family members, and we are applying to the court to enforce those rights.
Indeed. Ulrich, just a very quick closing question in terms of the criminal side of all of this, because a lot of the families are also talking about the fact that the justice system has let them down. We've been waiting for the NPA to come forward. They're saying that to have evidence of who can actually be held accountable for what actually went wrong. We haven't seen anything happening there. What is your take on this? And I mean, are you leading this call in any way as well?
Well, the criminal charges is obviously a function which is instituted by the South African Police Services as well as by the National Prosecuting Authority. And certainly if there is found to be negligence or recklessness which led to the death of these patients, then we could definitely see charges of culpable homicide or murder being leveled against individuals who were directly involved with this process. But certainly, if my clients request us to assist them in that process, and we will do so, but we will work together with the National Prosecuting Authority and the South African Police Services. Once again, one would have to show negligence or intentional recklessness which led to the death of these people, and one would then be able to pursue those criminal charges.
We'll leave it there. Ulrich, thanks very, very much for talking to us here on the programme. Ulrich Roux, lawyer representing families that are yet to be compensated after the Life Esidimeni tragedy. This was 2 years ago. They said that they would be paid out. These families are still waiting. Some of them, not all of them. All right, we'll be following that up again with another interview that'll be happening after our news headlines, and we'll be talking to the Gauteng government about that, so do stay tuned. We look forward to that conversation. Right, let's get you some sports news now.